Good evening. Hello. Just wanted to welcome everybody to our candidates forum. This evening is all about allowing our candidates to address our community, as well as allowing our community to ask questions of our candidates. I am just here on behalf of the Huron Public Library and the Huron Chamber of Commerce. I am Amy Roldan, the Executive Director of the Huron Chamber of Commerce, to welcome you and introduce our moderator for this evening, Mac Lair.
Okay. Thank you, Amy. Folks, if you could just take a minute and go ahead and if you have a cell phone or pager, who's still using pagers? We still have some pager folks out there. There you go, Mark, thank you. If you could go ahead and put those on courtesy mode, that would be great unless you need it for an emergency, okay? We'll go ahead and get that out of the way. Folks, as Amy said, my name is Mac Lair. I'll serve as your moderator for this evening. And it's great to welcome everyone here for our annual candidate forum sponsored by the Huron Chamber of Commerce. So let's go over a couple of the ground rules for this evening. Each candidate will be giving a 3-minute opening statement. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. Our timekeepers will flash a 1 minute, 30-second, and ring the buzzer when time has expired. They will be able to see, the candidates will be able to see the time in the front row. So it's not really it's kind of like a buzzer. It's can you demonstrate that for us? Just so we know what we're looking for. What was that? Okay, so everybody got that? That means your time is up or your eggs are ready. So we've got that part worked out. Thank you for doing that. Next up, we have, once time has expired on your talk or your question, the speaker must conclude his or her remarks. Time limits are closely followed to ensure fairness to all the candidates. We will conclude with a final, I haven't talked to Amy about this, but I think we have closing remarks. Amy, do we have closing remarks? 1 minute closing remarks as well, okay? Questions from the audience must be written legibly and can be directed to specific candidates or to all candidates. Also, folks, these are just questions. It's not an interrogation, but if you could provide a specific, succinct question on what you're looking for from our candidates, the team down here would very much appreciate that. And we did get several questions online and very well thought out, but also very detailed. So our group down here is working on looking at those questions to make sure we are getting to the point of what the matter is. Questions will be read aloud by the moderator, that's me. All candidates will be given an opportunity to respond to any question with the same time limitations as previously discussed. A nonpartisan committee will screen all questions for libel and slander, and duplicate questions or related questions will be combined. Answers are limited to 1 minute. Also, for the candidates tonight, if you'd like me to repeat a question, please just ask. Also, do not feel that you must use up the entire minute for your reply. Additionally, we expect the audience to give each speaker the opportunity to be heard. This is not a town meeting, so comments from the audience will not be accepted. In the event that a candidate cannot attend, Amy, do we have a candidate that cannot attend that has... We will not be reading anything for that. Okay, very good. I'll move on then. So at this point, if everyone knows the ground rules and the first group of candidates are ready, we will begin the program. First up, for Huron Township Trustees, we have to the stage, please welcome Edward Enderle, Mary Kay Schlushman, and Edward Wimmer. Please take the stage. And you are here first, sir, so you can take the first seat. And Mary, you can take wherever you'd like to sit. And Ed, you're stuck with whatever's left over. Also, while they're getting set up, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our group doing the videoing of the program tonight, RRT Productions, Robert Troutman. Thank you for doing this. This will also be streamed into the City of Huron YouTube channel, so you can check that out later. If you want to get a replay of what's happening here live, go to the City of Huron YouTube channel, and they'll have that uploaded for that. But thank you, Rob, for doing that. Appreciate you guys being here tonight. Thank you. So, trustees, are you ready for your opening remarks? So let's go ahead. Let's start in order as you were called. So, Ed, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Good evening. I am Ed Enderle, Huron Township trustee, running for re-election. I've been a trustee for 24 years, and I want to say thank you for allowing me to do that. It's been a thrill, it's been an honor, and a lot's been accomplished in 24 years. There is one person that's been on our township board longer than I have, and that would be Mary Kay. She's been on the zoning board for 27 years. So she's done a great job of serving out there, and we appreciate her for doing that. So some of the improvements that we've done in the last 24 years as being on the trustees board, some of the things we have seen out here in the township, Glidden went through several expansions, some tax abatements, and we helped them out with that. Worked with them that. We have Habitat Restore came out to Huron Township out on Fox Road and 250. You got the sanctuary at Plum Brook on Hall Road. That was an addition. Chapel built on Galloway Road. We built a new fire station here just a few years ago on Bogart Road, which we will have an open house sooner or later. That was something that happened pre-COVID. You know how that goes. Kia dealership out on 250. And some of the other things that we work with is our Huron Parks and Rec. We work with them as far as refabing or resurfacing Fabens Park. So we helped with the parking lot out there, the lighting, the fencing. We also helped with the walkway in between Huron High School, and also it goes all the way over to Woodland School. And also out to Fabens Park, that was the Don Ritzenthaler Memorial Building that was put up too. So a lot of changes here. Some other changes in the last 24 years, every fleet or every piece of equipment in our fire department has been changed in the last 24 years. So it's kind of funny what happens, you know, makes me sound pretty old. So everything's been changed out for the latest and greatest. And also our EMS, we always go, and when we equip the ambulance and all that, we always try to go with the most technical equipment for the EMS for the whole citizen. We all do a lot better. So real quick, some of my background, been here in Township. I've been in farming business all my life, still working on the farm with my brothers. Received a degree from BGSU, Firelands, Electronics and Business. I was employed at ADLT after that for 10 years, where they took me around the world installing manufacturer facilities. After that, I went to NASA for 13 years, where I was hired as a engineering tech. I'm currently employed at Ehovie Career Center, where I'm enjoying being part of a career center that helps grow the future workforce. Some of the things I've been part of, membership of the Ohio Farm Bureau, Ohio Township Association. I attend New Life Church, where Adams, LaFay, and Hathaway also go to worship. I'm a member of the National Federation of Small Business, and I'm also a charter member of Firelands Habitat for Humanity, where I think I'm the last one standing. So I really do sound old now, so thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate those comments. And next up, Mary. And tonight, folks, this is going to be interesting. We have two mics, and we're going to learn all about sharing tonight. So we're going to do that. We do have some disinfectant wipes there if you'd like to do something with that mic as you're transferring it between the groups here. But Mary, your opening comments, please.
Good evening. First off, I guess a little background is needed on myself. I have a degree in business administration from Tiffin University, and I spent 35 years in banking. The last 28 years of my career was at Castelia branch of Civista Bank, where I served as a commercial lender, compliance officer for the holding company, and a senior vice president. I've lived in Huron Township for 36 years with my husband David. Now David's a lifelong resident of Huron Township, and he's also a very, very proud graduate of Huron High School. For the last 28 years, as Zed mentioned, I have been a member of the Huron Township Zoning Board, and I have served as chairman of the zoning board since 1997. All those nice things that Ed talked about at the beginning of his session, all the buildings and all the new things that got put up in the township, of course, I worked on the other side. First, it came to the zoning board before going to the trustees for approval. So I too was involved in all those things, even though I wasn't a trustee at the time. I'm a member of St. John's Lutheran Church at Union Corners, and of course I've also been a past president there, and currently I'm serving as treasurer of our endowment committee. I'm currently a Huron Township trustee. For those of you who don't know it, I was asked to fill the position being vacated by Bob Bose, who had served as a trustee for the township for 38 years. And I happily accepted the position, but at the same time I knew I had some very big shoes to fill. As the only candidate who actually resides in Huron Township, my goal is to make sure that the people of Huron Township are served, with no interference. We have a very nice township. I grew up in a place where there was no zoning, and it's still a nightmare. And I've been gone from there for a very long time. They still don't have zoning. I can't imagine how people live without it, seriously. And Huron Township trustees over the years have done such a fantastic job, and I want to see that continue. I want to say this is the first time I've run for a position, any kind of public office, but I've had a lot of encouragement from the community, both in the township and in the city, and I thank you all for that. And I also want to thank Ed Enderly for giving me all the good tips that I needed, and for even asking me for some signs so he could put them up for me. So that's a pretty good deal. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mary. That's a live mic there. Next up, Mr. Wimmer. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mac. I would like to thank the Huron Chamber of Commerce and all of you for attending tonight's candidate forum. My name is Edward Wimmer. You may be wondering why I want to run for Huron Township trustee. I have worked in the public service sector for 30 years in Erie County. My love for Huron Township and the city of Huron has become a priority to me. It also made me realize I want to become more involved with the community and its members. As a former public service employee, I understand that the township trustee has many responsibilities. This includes maintaining township roads, snow removal, street signs, equipment, employees, police and fire protection, cemeteries, parks, recreation, zoning, and work with the fiscal officer. With all this being said, the most important aspect of Huron Township is the citizens. I believe in being proactive. My work ethic speaks for itself. Getting out in the community, talking with the residents is essential. The position entails more than just attending monthly meetings. It is my obligation to listen to what residents need and want. Being elected means it is my duty to represent the citizens of the township and to do what is the best interest of the community. As we know, there has been many changes in Huron Township. When elected, I will have duties to perform, opportunities to take, promises to fulfill, problems to solve, and goals to achieve. I am currently working at Farmland College, BGSU. I am the zone building supervisor and head of the grounds. So I just want to say thank you for everybody coming tonight, and I appreciate your time.
Very good. Thank you, Ed. So let's go ahead with our questions that come in from our audience tonight, and we appreciate that. We have a runner coming around, so if you have a question, check in with our runner and make sure you submit your succinct question to our runner for review by the panel here. So first up, this is for all the candidates. You guys have 1 minute each to respond if you would like. Question: what does transparency mean to you? What does transparency mean to you? Mary, we'll let you start.
Thank you. I think transparency is nothing more than being upfront and honest about whatever it is you may be thinking you shouldn't be transparent about.
Ed, since you have the mic, go right ahead.
A lot of times you get new developments coming into the neighborhood, and some of that stuff stays hush-hush behind the doors for a while. Some of that's not so transparent as it ought to be. So out to the township, we are very forward. When something's coming in, everybody knows about it. Everybody that comes visits us, and it's not very many people that come visit. So come visit at the meetings. We love seeing you guys. So transparency, financially, you can come out to the township anytime and ask for public records. If you want to see our budget, if you want to see how we spend things, you're more than welcome to.
Ed, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mac. Transparency, I think everybody should work together. Everyone should come together. And like I said, I do agree with Ed. I think you should have an open book, an open door, and have people come in and be able to talk to you and be able to talk to the residents in the Huron Township. Thank you.
Okay, Ed, we'll go right back to you. If you could say one positive statement about your opponent or opponents, what would it be?
You got 3 good candidates here, and we are all qualified.
And Ed?
Eddie Wimmer, oh my goodness, if you talk to him, you love him. I mean, he's a people-loving person. He'll get out there in your face. I mean, not in a negative way, but he just loves people, so he's very personable. Mary has got the knowledge that is needed on this board right now. She's got the experience. Lots happening here, you know, especially after COVID. Finances out to the township. Obviously, we had to cut back a few things, I think, like everybody does. That's why you see so many projects going on this year as far as paving, because we all shut them down last year. So, and that's what I would say about Mary. She's got the knowledge.
Thank you. I've known Ed Underley almost as long as I've known my husband, which is a long time. And Ed is a good guy. I told you that a little earlier. He's a, you know, when you go out and help another candidate with their campaign by putting up signs for him, that's just the type of guy he is. He's got a lot of experience in the trustees. He's done a good job for the 24 years he's been there, and I see no reason to change that. Eddie Wimmer, I just met. We are newly acquainted, but I agree that he is an open book, number one, and he's very nice. He's very personable. He likes to talk to people. He's not afraid of anything. So I think he could do a real good job, too.
Very good. Thank you, Mary. Next question for the panel. 1 minute to respond. What would be your main goal for Huron Township? Your main goal for Huron Township? Ed, I'll let you take that question.
Okay, so out here in Township, several years ago, we developed it's called a comprehensive plan. So it was a 10-year comprehensive plan. So the main goal is to stick toward that. And one of the things I can remember on that comprehensive plan that the people of the township wanted, and that was as little as change as possible. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to be so aggressive like Perkins Township and go out there and ask for every business to come in and fill every square farm acre that we have here in Huron. So that would be my response. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. I don't think I have to say anything. Actually, I was involved when we did the new plan for the township. We spent months and months on the zoning board putting that together, and it was put together in such a way that we would have nice living areas for people. You know, we have nice condominium and housing associations. We have just enough business that we can afford to pay our bills, And the big thing was we wanted to keep some green space in the township. We wanted it to be a nice open space for everyone. So that also is my main goal, is to keep that together.
Oh, there we go. My goals are, I think that here in Township, as we all know, we need a balance. The balance is agricultural. Number 2 is business. And 3 is residential. And I have to agree that we have a great thing going right now.
Very good. Thank you, Ed. Next question for the group. This is for everyone, 1 minute to respond. What kind of relationship do you think you have with other officials in the county and for working on issues for the betterment of Huron Township? Mary, I'll let you take that. What kind of relationship do you have with other officials within the county?
Are you talking the trustees as a whole? We've got a very good relationship with Erie County, actually. From the Erie County engineer to the employees, to getting we work with the, oh, I'm sorry, I lost myself. I'm sorry. I know that it also would include the people in the city of Huron, and we've got a great relationship with the officials in the city of Huron. So, I mean, there's never been an issue in the township with any other elected officials, to my knowledge. So I think we get along with all of them.
Thank you, Mac. As people probably know, a lot of people that don't know me, but a lot of people you may know me, I worked for the sheriff's office for close to 30 years. Before that, I worked for the city of Huron Police Department, and I worked before that with Sandusky Police Department. And so I'm well known in the county. I will say this, we have a great city, we have a great township. I have a good rapport with the city, I have a good rapport with the township, I have a good rapport with the commissioners. I have a good rapport with the whole Erie County. I'm well known there, so I think it's great.
Very good. Thank you, Ed. Next question for the group. How does transferring Sawmill to the city affect taxes? I think we're talking about the annexation of Sawmill Creek Resort. So, Ed, I'll let you take that one and work through that. So how does transferring Sawmill Creek to the city affect taxes?
Well, that was before I was in there, so these two would know more than I would know about that, but I think it's a win-win situation for both sides. As far as I understood, is it's going to be in the city as it is, and the township's going to get the bed tax. So as far as the employees that are working for Sawmill, the city of Huron will be getting the city income tax. So it's a win-win on both sides.
Ed, I'll let you follow up on that.
Okay, Sawmill, when it got annexed, we were going to keep the property value, so the property tax as it's valued today. All the new improvements, that tax will go toward the city here, and like Eddie was saying, also the income tax that they'll receive. We also did maintain the bedroom tax, that what we call the bedroom tax for the taxing on hotel rooms. Hopefully, they'll have more rooms. We'll increase a little bit that way. To answer the last question, we do work with the Sheriff's Department. We have, I think, 4 deputies that we have full-time here in Huron Township. Shenago and Olds, we work with them a lot, and also Jack Farshman, roads, salt, road crews. Quite a few of our roads in Huron are county roads. Huron Avery Road is a county road. River Road's a county road. Bogart Road's a county road. So obviously we intertwine with them. We plow some of their roads. They plow some of our roads. So that's how we work that.
Very good, thank you. And Mary?
I think that the Sawmill transaction was probably one of the most cooperative transactions that has probably taken place ever in Erie County as far as I'm concerned. It was a combination of city, township, and the schools coming together as one to make a decision that was approved by all involved. As far as what it did for anybody, it was a win-win for everybody. Nobody lost anything on that transaction. And actually, the schools gained on their tax base. Huron Township was able to keep their bedroom tax, their base tax rate for the township. And more importantly, from Sawmill, we were able to make sure that those little islands that existed out there for the people that lived in the condos remained in the township.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, next question for the panel. What qualification, I'm going to combine these two here. What qualifications do you have for operating a large budget like Huron Township, and what knowledge of government do you bring to the table? So, Mary, let's go ahead and, you've got the mic, go right ahead. 1 minute to respond.
Okay. As far as budget, my background is in finance. 35 years in banking. I started out in a savings and loan where I was an assistant treasurer, so that involved financing. I truly believe that I have enough knowledge to work with the budget that Huron Township has to work with. And we make sure, the important thing to me in doing that is making sure that we are making wise decisions, we keep our budgets balanced, and that we know where every penny is going. And that's the most important thing to me when it comes to finance. And I have experience with all of that. As far as government, I haven't really been involved in government other than, you know, I wasn't elected as a township trustee to the zoning board, or to the zoning board by a trustee. They elect us. It was just a position that they asked me if I wanted to do it, and I did. So that's about my experience.
Very good. Ed, please take that question.
Thank you, Mac. First of all, when working with the Sheriff's Office for several years, as Ed Enderle said, we have 4 deputies in the county. We also have a substation at the Huron Township station. Also, I'm familiar with contracts with the Sheriff's Office because I was with the Sheriff's Office for several years. So I'm familiar with the contracts with like fire and police department. As far as all the other, with the aspect of how much the Huron Township would business-wise, the best thing that I would do is sit down with all 3 trustees and sit down, and then the other thing I would do is sit down with the fiscal officer and make sure our budget's right every time, and have those meetings. Thank you.
Right on schedule. Go right ahead, Ed.
Okay, thank you. So 24 years ago, when we got started as a trustee, we all got our own personal budgets, right? But yes, it was quite a bit bigger than my personal budget. With that said, it only was about a 1/10 of what the budget is today out to the township. So it's kind of scary, but you had the other folks that were there. I was the new guy. There was 2 other folks already there, Bob Boast and John Ritzenthaler. So they helped me out. I learned it with time. Did I ever think I'd handle a budget as big as it is today? No. But I learned it little by little as it was growing. So, and I think we've done a great job with it. One thing that we try to maintain out there, and it was something that happened way before me and before folks I know out there, we never bought anything we did not have the money for. Now, I didn't say we couldn't afford. I said that we did not have the money for, and that has really worked out well for Huron Township.
Very good, thank you. Okay, next question. This is for all the candidates. What are the top 3 priorities for the township, and what is your plan to ensure progress is made on those priorities? So, Ed, I'll let you take that one. Ed Enderle.
First 3 top priorities, keeping the citizens happy. You do get a lot of complaints. Some complaints about snow removal, but usually roads. And the thing is, some of those complaints, they're not even there anymore because we're doing such a great job of getting them paved and putting asphalt on top of asphalt. We can drive trucks on roads out in the township where we weren't able to when I first started because they were so thin. So you had to watch the weight limits. That every time a garbage truck went down there, we just cringed. And even school buses in some cases. So that, still would like to maintain our fire equipment. We do have a ladder truck that's coming up here in the next few years. We're trying to budget for that so we can replace that. That would be the next big expenditure that I see. Also, we need to get a tour out there to the townships and get you folks out there and get a tour of that new facility that you have. We still maintain a good working relationship with the city and the county and all the other entities.
Thank you, Ed. I'll let Ed Wimmer take the next question here. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mac. The first thing I would say is there's no doubt that I'm pro-public service. So the number one thing that I'm always going to say is I'm going to be proactive with the police and fire. Second of all, and I will say, well, like Ed has, I've worked out there in the roads where it's snowing and roads are bad. So the biggest thing is maintain the roads the best we can. And the third thing is what the best interest is for the community and for the citizens. Thank you.
Okay, Mary, I'll let you finish up.
My top 3 priorities would be, number 1 is to keep the zoning plan that we have now for the township in place and not allow it to get out of hand with business and other entities coming into the township which don't necessarily meet the standards that we have set for the township. One thing I'd really like to see is, we have a meeting every Monday night at the first Monday of the month at 6:30 p.m. we have a meeting. And what I'd like to see is more people in the community getting involved, coming to the meetings and listening and hearing and seeing what we are doing and how they can assist, help, or just cheer us on. And of course, the roads are always a big deal. Like to see the roads get in a little better shape.
All right, let's go into our last question here for our township candidates. What are your intentions regarding the preservation of our farmland in the township, and are there any plans for future development? Ed, I'll let you take that.
Okay, with your comprehensive plan and also with zoning, you have areas that we prefer, it's called residential agriculture, to stay that way. But if somebody sells their farm, we cannot really stop them. So it is hard to do it. You got a lot of big money out there, especially along 250. So what we did there is 250 is designated commercial. And that's what Mary was trying to refer to earlier. So as the board went through, we got different areas of Huron designated for different things. So farmland, actually where I live is over by Glidden. All that is called industrial. Ford plant can come right next to my house if they wanted me to, or if they wanted to. But you have to have a little for everybody. So I'm over in the industrial area, 250 is more commercial, Route 6 is commercial, and most everything else is agriculture, residential. So.
Very good. Mary, I'll let you take it.
I think one of the big things in keeping the agriculture that's there is in the zoning, but also I think it's in with getting some changes made through the state of Ohio. The Musey project really is a good indication of what can happen, and I believe that our intention is to talk to the state of Ohio, starting with the Ohio Trustees Association and going to them as a group and asking that some of these rules and regulations as to whether you're true agriculture or whether you're commercial business be allowed in some of our townships.
Okay, Ed, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mac. As I said before, I believe that is like everybody else's, I think, is with Huron Township, and you see a lot of it going through a lot of townships, is a balance. And I'm going to say it again, I believe in the agricultural. I also think that we need a balance of residential, and we also need businesses. Thank you.
Very good. We're out of questions for the trustee candidates, so we'll go into closing remarks. So Mary, I will let you take 1 minute to give us your final closing remarks.
This is the first time I've done this, but I want to say I have had so much support, and I am so thankful for it. And I hope that my background and the fact that I've spent a lot of years working within the township and learning their process allows me a position at the table in November.
And go ahead, Mr. Wimmer.
Thank you, Mac. Again, I would like to thank Huron Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Mac Layer. Also, all the candidates tonight for the forum. Also, I would say that remember me on November 2nd, and hopefully we can get this done. Thanks.
Very good. Mr. Enderle.
Okay, thank you. You guys had a lot of questions tonight, and that's good. That's the most questions I ever had asked up here at the candidates board. So you're very active today. Appreciate that. A couple questions I always have when I go to door to door. I'm in the city limits. I can't vote for a township trustee. Yes, you can. The city is inside the township, so you can vote for the trustees. You can vote for two. There's 2 seats open. There's 3 of us up here. So yes, you can vote for more than one. So you can vote for 2. The other thing I had, if you ever have a question for me, you can call out the township. They'll get it to me. My cell number is on all my campaign information. Don't hesitate to call. People use it, and I appreciate that they use it. I'm glad I can be held of. So, and I will close by, I want to ask you for your help for this vision of a thriving community to keep going. I appreciate your vote this election season. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Ed. And that will wrap up our closing comments. And so if we could have one more round of applause for Ed Enderle, Mary Schlesman, and Ed Wimmer. Thank you very much. Folks, you can exit stage left that way. Nice job, everyone. Thank you. And the next group coming up, we're going to bring up our Huron City Council candidates. So let's bring up Sam Martino, William Biddlecombe, and Joe Dyke. Gentlemen, come on and take the stage. First come, first served with regard to seating. And we'll have our runner out here. Our runner will be out selecting folks for their questions. So if you have a couple minutes here, fill out a question card. And we have one already. All right. Thank you. Good to see everyone here tonight. So we have same format for the group here. We'll do 3 minutes of opening remarks for each candidate. So San Martino, I'll let you go ahead. You start with A, and we'll start with you.
How's that? All right. Well, good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Amy, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Public Library for giving us this opportunity. But most of all, I would like to thank you, the citizens, the voters of this community, for your ongoing support for the last 16 years and for the continued next 4 years. When I first took office 16 years ago, I advocated for efficient government planning and teamwork. Over the last 16 years, I've learned there's another component, and that is partnering. That component is partnering with private sector as well as other local governments, such as the Huron Township Trustees, the school district, and partnering with businesses local and new businesses coming into town. 2 years ago, my colleagues on council elected me to be your mayor and represent you in this city and serve you. I'm happy to say that one of the things we achieved in the last 2 years was we developed the economic development portion of the plan that enhanced the Vision 2020 plan. That plan, economic development plan, produced extensive and comprehensive goals and principles that will help drive the economic developments in this city. We could not provide you with the services, the quality of services, without a robust economic development plan or the businesses that are in town today. I have several opportunities to work with different organizations in the last 16 years and really put those philosophies to work. I look forward to continue working with those people, those organizations, and when I get a chance, I'll go into some of the great things that we've had happen in the last couple of years with business and local entities. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Mr. Biddlecombe.
Good evening, everybody. I'm William Biddlecombe. I have lived in Huron almost the majority of my life. Since then, I have become involved with the community. Been part of the Riverfest Committee since 2007. I help out with the Huron Football H team. In my free time, I'm a car collector. I'm looking forward to hitting the ground running when I'm inaugurated. Learning as much as I can from these two guys as well as the rest of council, and serving the community.
And Mr. Dyke.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Dyke, and I am up for re-election, and I'm excited to be a part of this group another 4 years. Being on this for 6 years, there's been a lot of changes, a lot of great things. I'm kind of on cloud 9, so I'm all over the place. I had my 5th child yesterday, or 2 days ago. My wife is a rock star, so been busy doing some other things, so sorry for my not too prepared tonight. But being on council, we've been able to have some tough times and have some great times. One of the things that I feel that I'm strong at is I'm very active in the community, not only as a local business owner, but also with my children, being active in school and various sports. And, I've lived here all my life. I graduated in 1994, went to Bowling Green State University, came back home after 7 years of living in Cleveland and started our family with my wife. And I'm just excited to be here and continue some great things to go on. So thanks again for everybody being here. I also need to thank the Chamber of Commerce, the Huron Public Library. This is a great forum to put on. I also want to say congrats to all the candidates that are running, not only for the school board, but also for the Township Trustees. It's awesome to see so many people wanting to get involved. I also just want to give a thank you to Bob Bose. He did a lot of great things, and it was awesome getting to know him and learning some of the things before he stepped down as one of the trustees. So thanks again, everybody, for being here.
Very good. Thank you, Joe. Okay, first question that we have here for council. This will be 1 minute to respond. So here we go. Other than the ConAgra site, what do you see as the #1 priority for the city of Huron? Mr. Dyke, I'll let you take that.
Thank you. Other priorities. I think the ConAgra site is definitely a very interesting piece. I know from when I started that was a big topic, and I would love to see something. It was just earlier today I was talking to somebody, and they said they never thought anything would happen in their lifetime. So hopefully there can be some good things happening with that over the next couple of years, and something can happen. But the other thing, one of the Vision 2020, they talk about residential, people being able to live here and have homes to buy. We're seeing a lot of transient rentals, and I think we have some great things in place with that. And I hope that we can see some other development that will allow young families to move into this community.
I'm in agreement. I think beyond Niagara, the Vision 2020 is a great roadmap for the future. I'd like to ensure going forward, though, that we are able to keep our city services going at the same pace and rate that we are used to, and doing so with like the development of ARDA, they're basically doubling that facility out there, which will create more jobs, which creates income tax, which keeps the tax burden on us residents, less and less.
And Sam.
All right, thank you. Obviously, providing you with the quality service is number one. Number two is seeing our plans, our economic development plans through. That will help assure that those qualities of service exist. ConAgra, I think if you were at the meeting last night, you saw that we announced the developer that has been selected for that site. So we hope that's well underway after some more negotiating. Also, following through in the items that Mr. Dyke has brought up, we're looking for affordable housing for this area. We want to work with the private sector in that arena and hope we can make some more of that happen. But the main thing is, I think, more economic development and enhancing Main Street and supporting our local businesses.
Thank you, Sam. All right, we've got a new question in. So here we go, 1 minute to respond. A lot of folks know about what's going on here, so they would like to know, can we get a vote for the bike lane? So Sam, you seem poised and ready. Right ahead.
Can we get what?
A vote for the bike lane.
A vote?
On a final design for the lane there.
Well, council obviously has taken the position and unanimously supported the bike lane that's going in. But if the city residents would like to take a vote on the bike lane, that would be up to you. We quite honestly listened to both sides of the issue for, 6 or 8 months, and there were strong opinions on both sides, and the majority of the folks were interested in going with the bike lane. And that's how the city council voted. It's not only a bike lane, it's a part of connecting the entire city. But that would be up to you if you choose you want to vote, but council has already voted.
William, I'll let you field that.
I'm with Sam. If the people of the community want to come back and have a vote on the bike lane, that's perfectly all right. It's my understanding, though, that by the time I'm sitting on council, it'll be painted with the new striping in effect. So, it would kind of be going against, we'd be spending a lot more tax dollars to kind of go backwards. But, if that's what the majority of the public wants, then, that's what we'll do.
I am all for if there wants to be a public vote for the bike lane, but I will tell you my personal vote is I would vote for the bike lane. Number one, when we did the city manager search, every potential city manager candidate that came in, the first thing they said was like, I'm kind of thrown back that you have two lanes going through in one direction within your community through the main thoroughfare. Me personally, as a father, as a husband to an avid runner, going over there, I have no problem with if it takes me 10 less seconds to get over the bridge. It slows down the traffic. It lets them look to the left and see how beautiful it is down that Huron River and over the lake. So I'm for the river, or I'm for the bike lane, and also my children. They ride their bikes. They're getting at the age where they're going to be going over to McCormick and over to the bike thoroughfare, and it just slows the traffic down. So for me, from the safety standpoint, I think it's the best thing for this community.
Very good. Any more questions, Amy? I have one question for Mr. Biddlecombe. William, how do you like your chances in the upcoming election?
I'm just happy to be here. I ran 2 years ago. I've looked at this as a kind of the next progression in my involvement in the community, and I'm just looking forward to learning all the aspects of being on city council. I've been going to meetings for years. It's a great way to stay informed on what's going on, and that way you're not surprised when you hear about something in the newspaper that's been happening. But I'm just looking forward to putting my little stamp on this community.
Very good. Ready to go to closing comments, or would you like to jump in on
I would like to say I'm excited for not only William, but also for Matt Greaves. It's younger individuals getting involved, being a part of this. I know when I started with being inexperienced, these individuals all helped me. I mean, we might have had disagreements on topics, but everybody is here for the best of the community, and nobody wants to see anybody fail. So I'm excited not only to have William, but also to have Matt, and I'm sorry to see Trey leave and also Christine. So I think everybody has done a wonderful job. So welcome.
And Sam, any comment to that?
I agree. Christine Crawford and Trey Hardy have been assets to this city and to council. They chose not to run again this time. William has put in a lot of hours, a lot of time, I know, with the boosters and the school, and he comes to a lot of our meetings. He gets involved with the city. He has been for quite a while. I think he will as well be an asset to the community. I look forward to working with him in the next 4 years.
And we'll go into our closing remarks. So Sam, I'll let you go ahead and finish up. 1 minute for closing remarks.
1 minute. Okay. Well, I think that we can be proud of some of the accomplishments in the last couple of years. If you drive down Route 2 and look to your south, just past Rye Beach, you'll see one of the nicest, I think, buildings in our industrial park, Stride Mobility. That's a new business that opened up. We've been working closely with the Ardagh Corporation that came in and took over the old IAC building. We've been working with, obviously, with Moco, the clothing line, online clothing boutique. We've been working with Mucci Farms again, and we have been working with Firelands Scientific. I would love to be able to keep up this pace in economic development so that we can continue providing you with the services that you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. And William, your closing remarks?
I'd just like to thank Amy in the chamber, the library, Mac, and everyone else responsible for putting this on, everyone who's in the audience today and listening online. I'm happy to be here, excited to get started, and go Tigers.
Thank you again, everybody, for allowing me this opportunity. And I would just like to say, I'm excited for the next 4 years. Whoever gets voted in from the Township Trustees and also the Huron School Board, I think in this day and age, government has changed. We all need to work together. We need to do things to help this community. So I'm excited for the next 4 years. There's a lot of great things to come, but also we got to give thanks to the individuals that were here before us that have laid the foundation for all of this. So again, thank you, everyone, and go Tigers.
Thank you, Joe. That's going to wrap it up. Those are our candidates for Huron City Council: Sam Martino, William Biddlecombe, and Joe Dyke. Thank you. You may be seated. Joe, get some sleep. And the next group we have up, Amy, I believe we have a presentation from Huron City Schools Levy Committee. So let's go ahead and bring that group up, and I'll let you take the stage here.
Good evening. My name is John Ruff. I am interim superintendent for the Huron City Schools, and I'm here to tell you that we have a 5.6 mill levy on the ballot November 2nd. It will generate $2.1 million annually for 5 years for the district. The district has not had new levy money since 2005. And so we would greatly appreciate everyone's support in that endeavor on November 2nd. I am also here to introduce our co-chairs of our levy committee. Before I do that, I'd like to thank the Chamber for giving us an opportunity to speak to you briefly tonight. And it's my pleasure. Will Folger is in the audience out there somewhere. He is our co-chair. And it's also my pleasure to introduce A.J. Dufresne. A.J. is instrumental in developing the Levy Committee website that will have information, and I'm going to let him speak to that in a little more detail, videos, and most importantly on there a link to a calculator to the auditor's office, so each taxpayer in the city and township can calculate what a 5.6 mil levy will mean for your tax dollars. So thank you for letting us speak tonight.
Thank you, John. Yeah, my name is Dr. Andrew Dufresne. Some of you might know me as Andy Dufresne if you were going to school here in 8th grade, or AJ, which is fine. I just want to tell you a little about myself because I was talking to a friend of mine on May 1st this year, and he said, "Are you going to vote for the levy?" And I said, "What levy?" And he said, "Yeah, there's a levy coming. Are you going to vote for it?" I'm like, "I can't. I won't be in town." So I said, "Well, what you really need is somebody to come in and do some marketing for you." And he's like, "Why don't you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I could do that." So I volunteer my time, I'm unpaid, to do as much as I can to inform and communicate about the Huron levy. And that's our aim, that's our mission of the committee. So to that end, I just want to let you know that we've been doing some providing some information out there on the website, which is HuronSchoolsLevyCommittee.org. So you can go there, get information about the frequently asked questions about the levy, what it costs. There are videos also attached to those questions. More will be released over the next couple coming weeks about why do we need a levy? What's the difference between a TIF and an abatement? And there's a series of questions, and there's videos that are attached to them, and they're broken up. And it's Randy Dwyer basically telling us what it is that we need to know. And that's on a YouTube channel, which is also called Huron Schools Levy Committee. There are 7 videos on there at the moment. There is a Twitter account at Huron Levy. So as you can see, we're doing our best right now to get as much information as we can out there. You'll be seeing signs come out as well. We realize, as everybody knows in this auditorium, that it's a monumental task compared to what happened in May. So we have to convince at least 30% of you, in addition to the 30% already voted in May, to vote for a levy. And I can tell you that I don't have a kid here at school. My kid went to school in Lower Merion in Pennsylvania, and it is a highly desirable area to live in because of the school district. There are 10 private schools in the Lower Merion district, and they cannot rival the high school there. People are clamoring to get into that school district because it's so popular, it's so good. And I think Huron can be the same. But as you know, and I know, and everybody in this room knows, we're going to have to pass a levy at some point. If it's not in November, if it's not in May, it's going to have to happen because we don't want the state to come in and start reducing our expenses. There's also an email account, which you can get at the website. It's HuronSchoolsLC@gmail.com. And you can also donate money. We could use your money to help us promote the levy. And any volunteers you want to help out, please contact us, email us. You'll see us around. But please get involved. We need your help. We need your vote. So get out and vote. Thank you.
Thanks, AJ. Yep. Good luck. Yep. All right, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. That was our levy committee from Huron City Schools. Amy, anything, are we ready for our next act? Okay, here we go. So, I guess this is what we call the main event of the evening coming up here. We are ready to move on to the Huron City School District Board of Education election. So we have 8 candidates tonight. I think everybody's here. So I will call them up as noted on the program, and we'll have you take a seat here at center stage. So let's bring up Pastor John Adams, Sherry Catry, Stacy Hartley, Ryan Hathaway, Stacy Hinners, Kimberly King, Andra Kurtz, and Dr. Elizabeth LaFay. Please take the stage. And it just seems to work best that we have 8 candidates and 2 mics. So I like the ratio of mic to candidate here. So everybody grab a seat, and we will work through this little process here, and we'll get into our opening remarks. Does anyone need any water or anything like that? And we do have the wipes here, so if you'd like to use that before using the mic, you are welcome. Questions already? Very good. Thanks, Amy. All right, folks. So what we'll do, I think we'll work, Stacy, we're going to start with you and just kind of work back this way initially, and we'll try to do that. So everybody take a deep breath, get your water, and we'll get down to business here. So Stacy Hartley, you have the floor. 3-minute opening remark.
Thank you, Mac. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. It has been really fantastic to see the number of candidates here for 3 spots for a school board. I remember 2 years ago, I think we just had the 2, and before that, we had to have an appointed position. So thanks, everybody, for coming out and for everybody taking the time to watch at home. I wanted to share with you who I am, what I bring to the table, and why I'm running. I grew up in Columbus, and I'm married to a Huron High School graduate, Jim Hartley. We have 2 children, Bryn and John. I work full-time in public education, and I have nearly 20, as I have for 20 years. I'm currently an administrator at a college. I'm an active community member and volunteer in local civic and religious organizations. I began volunteering with Huron City Schools in 2011 when my daughter entered preschool. I started with volunteering in the classroom. My most recent role with Huron City Schools was on the Superintendent's Parent Advisory Council in 2019. I bring to the table my experience working in public education and my passion for the vital role of public education in our lives. I bring my experience leading civic boards and managing public administrative units. I bring my knowledge and understanding of public policy and how it shapes education. I bring my commitment to living a life of service to my community. I'm running because I believe in the solid foundation of our community and that has established by the Huron City Schools. I see the strong district performance of students and staff, the proud history and tradition of excellence. And I believe we can build on that foundation, performance, history, and tradition to elevate Huron City Schools even higher. I'm running because I want to offer my experience to offer solutions and pave the way for the brightest future possible for the district and for our children. We have some significant challenges ahead of us: financial state, leadership transitions in the superintendent and treasurer, challenges with trust and communication. I'm running in order to restore public trust through better communication, through meaningful engagement with students, families, and community, through fully open and transparent operations. We need leadership who value collaborations with families and with the community. We need strong fiscal management to put us on a more secure financial footing. We need to ensure every student has a safe, supportive learning environment to maximize their potential. We can do this through the power of our collective community, students, families, staff, residents, city, and township. We will not only meet these challenges, we will emerge stronger for having conquered them together. Together we can, and together we will.
Very good. Dr. LaFay? Oh, just a second, Doctor, before you get started. Everyone, could you just slightly turn your name tags toward the audience just so they can see everyone there, also for me, so we can have everybody. Is that better? So everybody can see names? Okay, very good. Dr. LaFay, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. Thank you for coming. I know it was beautiful outside. I think if it wasn't mandatory for me, I would have probably been walking my dog. And thank you, everyone, for putting this on. I grew up on a farm in Michigan, and I had my first job at age 11, detasseling corn. I've had a myriad of jobs along the way, put myself through college on scholarships and hard work, and graduated from Michigan State magna cum laude with a nutritional sciences degree, went on there to osteopathic medical school, residency and trauma trained in Detroit, and then made a very conscious decision with my husband, Paul, who's also a local surgeon here at Firelands, to move to this community. I moved from Michigan to Ohio. But I'm a Spartan, so it's okay. And we moved here very intentionally. My husband is from Cleveland. He's a St. Ignatius football guy. And he hadn't even heard of Huron when he was growing up. But the first time we drove through and met the people and saw the city, we fell in love. This community is a gem. And a strong school system is the backbone of a community. I want this place to thrive. I started attending school board meetings in the last year and realized that I had a civic duty that I had been shirking for a long time. I had never really paid attention much to politics and just sort of left it to other people. And I realized that I needed to get involved and make a difference. This is a place where I feel like I can. I bring to the table my just experience in medicine with all different kinds of personalities and a myriad of jobs. I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I'm a very hard worker. I'm a fast learner. I'm a team player. And I'm an earnest listener. I take the servant part of public servant very seriously. And I would do my best for this community. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. LaFay. Stacy Hinners, your opening comments, please.
Thank you, Mac. I was born here in Huron, educated here at McCormick, and graduated from Huron High School in '96. I've known a lot of you in the audience since I was a little girl. A lot of you I'm still meeting. I want to thank, before we get started, the Huron Library and the Chamber of Commerce for putting this on. The audience that's here tonight and watching online, thank you for your interest and engagement in our community. And then thank you to the 7 other people up here on the stage, and Mac, but the candidates running and their families. This is a lot for candidates. It's a lot on their kids and their spouses. But I think most of us, all of us in this room here tonight, think our community's worth it. So who am I? So grew up here, left for a little bit to get an education at Ohio Wesleyan and Dayton. I met a guy at Dayton Law School who I married. Jason is in the back. We've been married 19 years. I'm a lawyer by trade. My background is in civil rights, labor, and employment law. And I currently work in the legal department of a Fortune 500 company. My favorite job that I have is that of a mom. Jason and I have 2 kids. Nate is a sophomore at Huron High School, and then we have a daughter named Lucy who's in 7th grade at St. Pete's. I volunteer at St. Peter's Church where I go, and then I've also served as a coach, both for the CYO and now the Huron programs. Why am I running? I think like many of us, I want the best for our kids and our community. I think that I have a skill set that will help us solve some of the challenges that we currently have in our schools. And I feel called to serve, both for my kids, for my parents, my family here in Huron, and my neighbors. Priority-wise, my priorities are to help solve the financial crisis that we have and then build a sustainable solution going forward so that we don't find ourselves in a cycle of deficit spending and then emergencies. Legal compliance might be an occupational hazard, but legal compliance is a huge priority for me. I know we've talked a lot as a community about Title IX compliance, but really making sure that we're doing the right things the right way for all of our kids. And then restoring public trust through good communication, through transparent operations, both of the board and of each one of our schools, and accountability. Not every person can make it to a meeting. A lot of our folks work second shift or have kids, and so those are my 3 priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. And next up, we have Pastor John Adams.
Thanks, Mac. Huron and Huron Township have been my home for 23 years, and I love living in this area. So like most of you, I love the water, the beach, the wildlife, and summer. I've also observed the incredible job that many school board members and administrators have done over the past 20 years that I've lived here. And I desire to fill one of 3 open seats to add my unique skills and experience to, like others, help restore trust. I earned my master's degree from Oral Roberts University, and I have been a leader working with people in some type of capacity most of my adult life. I've been a senior pastor for 38 years and will be retiring from New Life Church in May of 2022. And while pastoring a smaller church in Sheffield Lake, I was also materials manager for Beckett Gas Corporation, being responsible for production scheduling and negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts. I've worked on factory floors, in construction, and the corporate office. I pastored 2 churches which were in dire straits when I took the helm, and I've been privileged to see both of them turn around and fill with life once again. I've been happily married to Diane for 37 years, who also served Huron Township as fiscal officer for 13 years. I have 3 grown sons who are Huron graduates and 5 grandchildren. I currently serve as the official chaplain to 4 different local law enforcement agencies. I serve the Huron Police Department, the Sandusky Police Department, the Perkins Township Police Department, and the Erie County Sheriff's Office. I also serve on our regional SWAT team as a drone pilot and crisis negotiator, and I'm currently enrolled in the FBI's 40-hour hostage negotiation class, which may help with being a board member. I've served this area as a substitute teacher and have also been a part-time instructor at Tri-C at the Police Academy. I also teach emotional survival for law enforcement here at our local police academy. I've served as vice president of Pine Lakes Condo Association while we live there. And all of these things I've done out of my love and enjoyment working with people. People are important. And during my over 2 decades of service to our area, I've been privileged to receive 2 prestigious awards. One, a Person of the Year Award in 2015 from the Sandusky Register, and 2, Ohio's Finest Civilian Award in 2016 from the Ohio Fraternal Order of Police Foundation. I understand business, I understand people, I understand education. And if I'm elected, I will be a team player. I will work hard to see that parents and residents are over-communicated to regarding the school system's needs, difficulties, and accomplishments. I will pledge to do my best to make decisions in the best interest of students, families, residents, and its incredible educators. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Adams. And Ryan Hathaway, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mac. Good evening, everybody. It's an honor and a blessing to be here tonight. I want to thank the Chamber. You know, it's an honor to be up here, like Stacy said, with 7 other adults that have, you know, taken on this huge responsibility with our children. I'm going to try to explain in 3 minutes who I am, give you a little background about what I believe in, and we'll go from there. So, who am I? I'm 32 years old. I moved here 6 years ago with my wife, Kara. We have 2 daughters, with one to be determined here in about a week. I graduated from Norfolk State University with a bachelor's of engineering technology, and was on a full football scholarship while attending. We attend New Life Church here in Sandusky, very own Pastor John Adams here. I own a sales consulting company that I started in 2016. I manage about $35 million in sales portfolio and I think that's a strength that I can bring to the school board. You know, why I decided to run for school board. I have a kindergartner this year. You know, I think many of us would agree that we've kind of sat by on our hands, if you will, and have maybe complained a little bit or have had some ideas of how we could make things better in the community. So I now feel like I have skin in the game, and I'm very invested. So, you know, it boils down to my child is worth fighting for, your child is worth fighting for, and it's worth fighting for the community and giving their voice back. What do I stand for as far as being a board member? I think there's some key components that, you know, I'm very adamant about, and one of those is a family-first approach. My belief is that parents have the primary responsibility for the education of our children in accordance with their values and beliefs. Quality education. The purpose of public education should be to equip students with the knowledge needed for life, not to indoctrinate them to certain political, religious, and philosophical beliefs contrary to their parents' beliefs. Transparency and communication is obviously a huge one. I believe that we need to hold our leaders accountable, including all of us, whoever decides, you know, whoever's elected to school board. I think it's important that we instill that trust in the community again. Financial responsibility. We have a big hill to climb here with finances, and this levy is going to be a fight. But I think we would all agree that you know, it's for our children's best interest, and we need to get it done. So I look forward to being a part of that. And lastly, but certainly not least, I believe that patriotism is not a dirty word. I believe in American exceptionalism. I think that this should be taught to our K through 12 students. And yeah, so that's it.
Thank you, Ryan. And Sherry Catry, go right ahead. You have your 3 minutes.
First, I'd like to thank the Huron Chamber of Commerce and the Huron Public Library for hosting this evening. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from Northeast Ohio. I grew up in Warren, which is a little bit north of Youngstown. I moved to the area in 1989, and specifically to Huron in 1991 when I married my husband, who is also sitting in the back. I've always been a big supporter of public education. I am a product of public education, both at the K through 12 and at the university level. I've attended 2 public universities. One was Ohio State, where I received my degree in German, and Bowling Green State University, where I received my certification to become a teacher. I teach in public schools. I teach in a public school by choice. I was also raised by a family that believes in public education, and it was instilled in me through all my life that it's our responsibility as a community to support our children. Whether you have children in the district, whether your children have already been raised, or if you're like myself and you don't have any children of your own. So I just want to emphasize that I am a supporter of public education. So my background with the school involvement goes back to 2012. There were some events that were happening in the district, and that really caught my attention. I was like so many other people. I thought things were just fine. I'd go, I'd vote for school board members, I'd read maybe the publications that came out, and I didn't know much that was going on. But as I said, some events took place in 2012, and some of you may remember what those are. So I started speaking out publicly then because I feel it's our responsibility to hold our elected officials accountable. And in 2013, I decided to run for school board. There were 3 open seats, and there were 7 candidates. And at that time, I was not elected, which is fine. That's what happens. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. But I continued to be active in my attendance to school board meetings, and I kept current. I ran for the school board in 2015, and I served proudly from January of 16 through the end of 2019. In 2019, I didn't run for my seat because I had an elderly parent who was sick, and that's where my priorities were. But we're here in 2021, and we have some really big decisions to make. I knew we had a superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. It's amazing how fast 3 minutes really is when you're talking. So, Kimberly King, you are up next for your 3 minutes.
All right, thank you to everyone who put this event on tonight and to all of you who have come to listen. For those of you who don't know me, I am a mother, a wife, and a registered nurse. While you may not know my name and face, since I did not grow up around here in Huron, I can relate to this community. I grew up in a small community as well with a population probably under 2,000. There were 82 students in my graduating class. It's also classified as a tourist community as well, except instead of the roller coasters and a lake attracting everyone, it was the Amish, good cooking, and a slow pace of life. Because of the various roles that I have had in my professional life, I bring important qualifications to the table that I'd like you to consider. As a nurse, I'm an advocate for patients. I will bring the same care and compassion to advocate for all of our students in the system. I have helped lead many projects within the organization I work for, which has contributed to my leadership skills. I'm organized and I am known for my follow-up on all issues and concerns. I collaborate with multiple departments daily, and I'm skilled at working as a member of a team. I respect multiple viewpoints, which is very key when you're working on a team. I'm very motivated for this position, knowing that the decisions that we as a board will need to make will not only affect all of the district students, their families, and the community, but my very own 2 students who attend the school as well. We have a great foundation with dedicated parents, students, teachers, and a community that supports us. There are always areas to improve with, and I feel that we have a great opportunity with some fresh perspective. I don't take the duties of this position lightly, and I will do my personal best to uphold the integrity of the school system and, most importantly, all of the children that attend it. With any issue these days, people are getting really wrapped up in it and they think that they have to pick sides. I don't want to feel like I have to pick sides. Instead, I want to seek out the truth and then come up with a solution for that. We as a board need to take the initiative to see what needs to be done and then take action and do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. And patiently waiting, we have Andra Kurtz. Go right ahead, Andra.
Thank you, Mac. Hi, I'm Andra Kurtz. My husband Ross and I have lived in Huron since 2003. I earned my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing from Bowling Green State University. After completing my Master's of Science in Nursing at the University of Toledo, I became a certified family nurse practitioner. I spent 4 years in family practice before concentrating on pain management and sleep medicine. My husband and I have 2 daughters, one who is a sophomore at Huron High School and the other who is in 8th grade at St. Peter's. Our daughter's education is very important to us, and I make it a priority to be involved. I was the president of the PTO at St. Peter's School for 3 years, and I continue to volunteer when possible. Our children are the future of this community, and that's why we're all up on this stage tonight. I see there are a lot of challenges in the district that need to be addressed, such as the financial crisis, trust and transparency, and communication. We are fortunate to live in a wonderful community where parents, teachers, faculty, and administration continue to put forth the effort to give our children the best education and opportunity possible. However, I feel there has been a disconnect recently with communication between the school administration and the community. I too, like the other candidates have stated, would like to deliver transparency to the community on the decisions that affect their children's education. I would like to see the school become financially stable. I think that we need to come together to concentrate on what's important, which is finding the best path forward for our children. The role and function of the school board is often misinterpreted. The board is a policy-making body, and the members are the chief advisors to the superintendent. Board members do not manage day-to-day operations of the school district, but they do see that the system is managed well by the administration. According to the National School Board Association, there are 4 major initiatives of leadership for the school board. Vision, keeping the students as the focus. Structure, employing the superintendent and the treasurer. Reviewing and adopting policies and allocating resources to support teaching and learning. Accountability, evaluating the superintendent and the treasurer, evaluating the progress towards long-term goals, and reporting the district progress to the community. And advocacy, seeking resources to expand opportunities and advocate for the families and children through strong partnerships. Should I have the honor to serve on the school board, I pledge to have the children's best interest as the driving force of my decisions. As parents, you are your children's first teachers, and your opinions matter. I will be open to listening to suggestions and the concerns of parents as well as the community. Some of our best solutions to problems come from listening to the ideas of others. Thank you for your consideration.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, that completes our opening comments from the candidates. Now we will move into the questions. And we have a lot of questions here. So I'm going to sift through the group here. And of course, there is a question in here on CRT. Now, I am completely at a loss because I spent most of the week preparing for this with regard to cathode ray tubes. So I totally missed the program here on this, but we're going to get to the CRT question here as we go along. But let's go ahead, and each one will have, each candidate will have 1 minute to respond. So here we go into our lightning round. So let me find the right question here to get things started. All right. There are a lot of questions. And all right, let's get to it. Here we go. This is for everybody. And Andrea, you get to go first. So here we go. Will you publicly state right now that you will protect and support all students of LGBTQ and student body if elected? If yes, how? And if not, why not?
I feel like every student should have the opportunity to be their best self, and we should support every student and figure out how we can get there. I think, across the board, these students need to have the best opportunities to get the best education they possibly can. And I think every single one should be included, and I'm supportive of all children.
We'll go right down the line here for this first wave of questions. So, Kimberly?
Yes, I support all of the kids that are in the schools. I think that's what makes the public school system great, is that we have differing views, differing opinions, and the same thing that I tell my girls every day is to be kind to everyone.
I absolutely support any child who identifies as LGBTQ. I support all children, and I support any resources and emotional support that we need to provide them so that they have a positive school experience.
I'll keep this going. I too support any student that labels himself color, gender, LGBTQ. I think it's important that we do have support systems in place for these students, and I stand behind that 100%.
As far as treating all students the same, there is absolutely no reason why any student should be treated any different than the next, period. All deserve respect, all deserve equal opportunities, and all deserve an equal education.
So to answer the question directly, yes. What would I do to support it? Make sure that the school district is employing the best practices with regard to supporting LGBTQ students, and also complying with state and federal laws that speak directly on how to provide the best educational opportunities for those students.
Again, to answer the question directly, yes. I don't really see how we would treat them any differently than any other student that goes through our schools, and we already have policies in place to promote kindness and respect and promote character development, which I think would apply to those children just as well as the rest.
Yes, discrimination is wrong. Discrimination is illegal, and that's how we end up in Title IX suits.
Very good. Thank you, panel. Next up, the questions don't get any easier, so here we go. Is the Hathaway, Brown, and LaFay a united team, or are you independent of each other? Since Hathaway starts this off, go ahead, Ryan. I'll let you take the floor on that.
First of all, I'm not sure who Brown is. Elizabeth LaFay.
Maybe that is, it says Hathaway Brown or LaFay, so I think they mean Adams. Is that correct?
So
okay.
You might have seen some of our campaign literature around town. So the three of us have, from the beginning, decided to run on a similar platform. So yes, we are all running independently. As you know, there are 3 seats open for the school board. Early on, we had decided, hey, why not go in? We'll share the same values. We each have individual strengths that we bring to the table. And so yeah, we're independent, but we are running as a slate, if you will.
Mac, I'm certain that no matter who we are or how close we are on the school board, should the 3 of us who are running on a slate be elected, because I know human nature, we will disagree on things. So to answer the question, we are independent, and I would imagine there'll be times that we disagree and wonder why we disagree, but that's because there are different viewpoints, and that is the beauty of individuality.
And Dr. LaFay.
Thank you. We were all chatting one night and kind of came up with this pastor, present, and future, because Pastor John has grandkids and has had kids come through the system. I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old, both girls in the school system right now. I forgot to mention my family earlier, shame on me. And Ryan has up and coming with his oldest being in kindergarten. So, we just decided to pool our resources and have some fun with it. We have similar ideals, but we are individuals. You have 3 votes, and you can use them on any 3 candidates you would like.
Okay, very good. Thank you. How about let's go with a yes or no on this one, and we'll go right around the room. Stacey Hartley, we'll start with you. This is a yes or no. How are you voting right now on the levy?
No.
I'd have to vote yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that's better than May. So, all right, here we go. Pastor Adams, this is coming directly to you. 1 minute to respond. If elected, how will you respect separation of church and state, and will you promise not to push curriculum in public schools? Go right ahead, Pastor John.
I'm not sure what curriculum we're talking about, but to answer that question directly, the most important thing anybody could do would be talk to folks I work with, Sheriff Sigsworth. You can talk to the police chiefs, the folks that I work with, and you can ask them if I push anything but equality and working with every single person on a department in a lot of diversity. So I would challenge you to ask those that I work with.
And if anyone would like to respond to Pastor Adams' response, you may at this time. Even though it's a direct question, you may either rebut or make comment. Any takers? Okay, next question. This is a direct question. Andra Kurtz, here we go. Please tell us why you desire to be on the school board.
Okay. I want to be involved in my children's education. I want to make sure that, they're getting the best education that they can, and the best way to do that is to be involved. And I think it's important to pay attention to what's going on and see what you can do to make a presentation in a better situation for the kids.
Audience, are you hearing all the candidates okay? Okay, is everybody doing that? Folks, when you are talking, just try to stay up close to the mic. That way everybody can hear exactly what you're talking about. So I know this gentleman's been waiting patiently for his question to be read. So we're going to get this over to, let's start with Stacy Hinners. It's a long question, so we'll let you piece this one together. As a resident of Huron, this is from our questioner. As a resident of Huron with kids in the school system, I believe that board members that also have kids in the school system have more of a vested interest in what happens at the school. It's easy to make decisions when they don't really affect you or your family. With that said, I would like to know what each of the school board candidates believes is the most important qualification for being on the board. So Stacy, I'll let you field that, and let's use that last part of the question. What do you feel is the most important qualification?
Well, so I am one of the candidates that has kids currently in the school system. I have a sophomore and I have a seventh grader. So I am certainly invested. I think the most important attribute is the ability to analyze and understand a whole bunch of subjects, because board members are called to not be experts on one thing, but help advise administrators on a whole bunch of financial, business, human resources, and ultimately education and culture issues.
Pastor Adams.
Well, I was privileged to have 3 sons go through the Huron school system. I also was privileged to be assistant wrestling coach for a while, so I am vested. I think one of the most important things for this upcoming school board is transparency and restoring trust from our board to our community. So that's one of the things that I would fly up the flagpole.
Very good. Mr. Hathaway.
Yes, I have a kindergartner that is coming up through currently at Montessori, which has been a question of mine, or to me. You know, I feel that, you look at the current board that's sitting, I don't know how many kids are currently in the school system for those board members, so I think, is there more skin in the game? Do they have more investment? I guess that's up to the person that's running for school board. I can tell you that I not only am planning on looking out for my own child, but the interest of all these children. So as far as characteristics go, I believe that a lot of what Stacy said I agree with. We're there to be a support system for our superintendent and the treasurer, and we're to do our part to support in many different aspects, not one particular thing. And I think that's one thing all of us up here bring to the table is a different view on several different topics.
Sherry Catry.
Okay, I believe I'm the only candidate that hasn't had children in the district, and obviously I won't be having any, but because I don't have children, I don't have a bias as a parent. I really can look at all children equally. It's not what's impacting my child at their building at this particular time. What's important as a board member is never to lose sight of what our main priority is. And our main priority are our students. And it's important that we have accountability to ourselves within the board, accountability with administration, and accountability to the district. I also believe that you need to be able to make decisions based on facts and not allow your emotions and connections to taint them.
And Kimberly King.
I don't feel that you necessarily have to have students in the system. I myself do have 2 students in the system, so I think I do have a little bit more in the game. Just knowing what's going on in all of the schools, I think it helps give you a different perspective about maybe some things that you aren't seeing or hearing. As far as qualities, I think you need to be a team player. I think you need to be able to communicate and work as a team with that communication also, and just valuing other people's views. I think it's good to have a variety of candidates and school board members.
Andrea Kurtz.
I too have children in the system as well. I do think that as a board member, you surround yourself with good people, with a good superintendent and a great treasurer that can help guide you through, because I don't know all the answers, but I'm a fast learner, and I'm willing to dig in and figure it out. Sticking with the vision, keeping the focus on the children, that's important. I feel like, having that structure and accountability for a school board member is also something that we really need to have as well.
Stacy Hartley.
I have
school-age children. I do not think that that makes a candidate more qualified than another candidate. This school needs to be run according to the policies and the laws that are out there that exist, really to safeguard the taxpayer dollars. And that's for people who don't have children, have never had children in the district. The school is a tremendous asset for our community, and it's really important that everything goes smoothly and that the children are educated. The most important qualities, I think, are maybe the willingness to have difficult conversations. It can be very uncomfortable sometimes, and the ability to have difficult conversations in pursuit of doing what is right is one of the most important things that a board member could do.
And Dr. LaFay.
Thank you. I think the biggest attribute of a board member should be teamwork, and just the patience to listen. Running it as a business and with the children as the forefront.
Dr. LaFay, you can keep the mic because you're going to field the next question. So here we go. This is for the group. What is your stand on childhood vaccinations for all school-age children? You have 1 minute to respond.
I am and always will be pro-choice regarding body autonomy when it comes to medical decision making.
I think, and parents do have a choice about vaccinating their children.
Send it over to Andra Kurtz. Andra, we'll let you take that.
I agree. I feel like the parents are the ones who get to decide that. I don't think that that's a decision the board should be making.
Kimberly?
As a parent, I think that is a choice that's left up to the parents, and that's not something that is a school board decision, I don't believe.
Sherry Catry?
Okay. I'm in agreement with the others that it is a choice that a parent makes for their own child. I don't believe that this is even a decision a school board would make, even if the Ohio Department of Health would put it on the list of vaccinations. Parents still have choice.
I'll keep these answers boring, and I'm going to echo the same sentiment. I think it's 100% the parent's choice when it comes to medical decisions for their children. And, this also falls into that discrimination topic as well, because you can't force this topic on parents.
Pastor Adams?
I would agree to 100% as well. I think parents have the best interests of their children at heart, and along with their medical professionals that they consult with, they are the ones to make those decisions. That's America, that's freedom, and I think that needs to be preserved.
And Stacy.
Yeah, I agree with the statement about this not being a Board of Education issue. In the state of Ohio, it is parents' choice, and certainly I respect the laws of the state of Ohio.
Hey, next question. This is going to be a reboot of a question we had earlier. For those that identified that they would not vote for the levy, why no? So those of you that raised your hand or mentioned no, we'll let you go ahead and take that. Could you show of hands who voted no for the upcoming? Okay, so let's go ahead. Sherry, I'll let you take that one.
Okay, just want to make sure this is on. It's not that I don't support the district. It's not that I don't believe that we need money. It's not that I believe that the district has misused money. I just think there hasn't been the transparency that we need, and there have just been some trust issues in the community. And until I feel that we have the new superintendent and the new treasurer established, I just want to wait and see.
I agree with the support of a levy, but this specific 5.6 mil ask, in my opinion, is the wrong ask at the wrong time for our community. done a lot of research into our budgets, particularly as how they'll change with changes in state funding starting this year, changes in property valuation, and some upcoming economic development. All of that to say I do and will support a levy, but one that works for our entire community at a lesser amount.
Echoing that same, with a triennial valuation this year is an update, and people have been asking, does that mean that the schools get more money? And sometimes the answer traditionally is no. But there is a rule that's called the 20 mil floor. We are at the 20 mil floor. For example, a school district, Licking County, had a 23% increase in the valuation. They had most of their districts were at the 20 mil floor. That means that there is a mandatory, there's an automatic increase. For example, in Licking County, with that 23%, there was $16.2 million in new money that is going to 10 districts. We need to wait and see how much this new money is going to be coming our way. Then let's calculate the levy and let's figure out what the right ask is.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Stacy, hang on to the mic. We're going to direct the question your way. New question here. Let's talk about real estate. Should a potential developer of the ConAgra site seek to receive a tax abatement, would you approve of it? You have 1 minute.
It would depend on what the ask was. You know, the city has the leverage to approve up to 75% for 10 years. If the developer wanted to ask for more than that, then that is a conversation that the city would need to enter with the school board. I don't fault any developer, any business for asking for a tax break. I don't. So then I think that's where that partnership and community with the business, with the city, or with the township and the schools, figuring out what makes the most sense for everybody. What are the long-term, what's the short-term benefits and consequences, the long-term benefits and consequences.
Andra, we'll let you respond to that. And we'll work right around the group here over to Dr. LaFay.
I think it's difficult to say yes or no right away. I think tax abatements need to benefit both the city and the school system, and they're individualized per, you know, what's going on in the ask at the time. So I would think that would have to be negotiated per deal, and everything would, you know, each one would be different.
I'll keep it simple. I think it would just depend on what the terms of it were, and I'd have to look at that to see what the best decision would be for the school and community at that point.
I'm going to echo the same responses, but I would have to have information. I would have to see, how does this benefit the community? And are we giving up something that we're going to have to turn around and ask the taxpayer to make up somewhere else?
Yeah, I too would want to see the details of this. You know, obviously we want to make sure that it's a fair balance, you know, what benefits the school and the city. So without having that detail, you know, it could be a good thing, obviously. So it's one of those wait and see situations.
I agree. I know it sounds like a weaseling out saying I don't know the details, but as far as principle would be concerned, I would not be in favor of an abatement, but I would be in favor of a TIF. A TIF is tax deferred. Abatement is the taxes are not paid for a period of time. So I would be more in favor of TIF than I would abatement.
From all my research on ConAgra, as it's the developments proposed now, a TIF is the more likely ask that would impact the school system than a tax abatement. As I understand the TIF, it's not so much a tax deferment. It takes the taxes that would go to the schools and the libraries and uses them to pay for things like infrastructure on the project, roads, utilities. So I say this, we have schools that are in shambles right now. We have kids that don't have air conditioning. Do I think money that should be going to the schools should go to an entertainment project at this point? No. I think we need to take care of our school facilities first, and then start to take a look at some of these nice to haves from a recreation tourism standpoint. We've lost track of our schools kind of in a rush to pursue economic development. And my commitment is to make sure that our schools are being considered in all of these partnerships by the township, the city.
I think with any abatement deal, my understanding is that it should benefit both the city and the business coming into that deal. And again, would have to look at that individual deal. I'd like to back up though and have a chance to answer why I would have voted yes for the levy. And you know, I appreciate the fact that it's a big ask, but I have been doing my due diligence as well, and I've been meeting with the treasurer and doing my research, and it's recently that I've been able to get behind this more. We are not considered a wealthy wealthy school by the state, and looking at numbers with Randy, which I sat down and took a long time to do because it's something that doesn't come to me easily, but I'm willing to learn. It was something that I could get behind. I don't think we're going to get state dollars in the amount that we need for our children's sake.
Thank you. Next question. 1 minute to respond. Ryan Hathaway, we'll start with you. What is your stance on eliminating positions, specifically teaching staff, in order to save money? Will you vote on eliminating teachers' jobs when the times come? And if so, what do you view as expendable and why? 1 minute.
All right, so that's a pretty loaded question. So it's not an easy one to answer, right? The way that I look at this as, you know, as a business owner myself, you know, how do we keep the lights on with the school? I mean, if we get to the point where the state's going to step in and run the school for us, you know, what do you have to consider? Unfortunately, with teaching or teachers' salaries and benefits being, I think, close to 70% of the financial hit here with the school, it's something that's going to have to be considered, I believe, if we can't come to an agreement. As far as who's expendable, I mean, I don't like that term because I don't think any teacher is expendable. But I think you have to look at newest hires, maybe arts and, you know, different things like that. You know, I know pay to play was just implemented, which I'm a football guy. I don't like to see it. But again, you know, I'm not going to be sending my kid to soccer camp if I can't keep my lights on.
And Sherry, we'll go ahead and pass it around.
Even if the levy does not pass in November, I'm not sure that we need to start looking immediately afterwards about eliminating positions. I think we have some options. Attrition as people retire, that we just simply do not fill those positions. Put another incentive out there for early retirement that would also keep us from having to eliminate positions. And as far as expendable, nobody's expendable. But I do believe that there are some money out there, like for career tech, that maybe haven't been explored, that might bring the money in to keep some of those jobs.
Kimberly?
I'm kind of echoing the same thing that's already been said, but I don't know that any of our teachers or ancillary staff are expendable. I think we need all of them to run the schools. So I think you would have to take a hard look at where that money is going and what would be the least impactful to all of the children if it came down to eliminating a position.
I agree with Kim. I think, you know, we definitely don't want to lose people. Nobody wants to fire anybody. Nobody is expendable, in my opinion, either. I do think, you know, that we need to take a hard look at the budget and see where we can make the best choices and cuts that are not going to affect the children or their education, and do the best we can to keep going and stay in the green.
Stacey Hartley?
Well, I am hopeful that we will resolve our financial issues well before we would get to the point where either we're in fiscal emergency, at which point the state forms a committee with people from our community to help us with financial decisions. But I'm pretty hopeful that we won't get to that point. We still have until fiscal year 26 25 would end the year on the current projections, but that is not with any new money from the new developments that are being talked about. And it also doesn't include any money from the new valuation. So again, finding that right ask for a levy, I'm hopeful that we can get that passed and keep our district solvent.
Dr. LaFay?
I too am hoping that we can resolve our money problems in time to salvage everything. As I stated before, we have to run this as a business with our children at the forefront. So if it comes down to taking a hard look at the budget, which it should, just out of fiscal responsibility, then there may be things that we need to look at, like jobs and contracts. I would hope not, just like I would hope that we don't have to cut arts or sports or busing or any of the things that our community enjoys. I have a concern that if we do have to cut those things that are with the era of school of choice, that we may never recover.
I think to answer the question, I think cutting jobs should be a matter of last resort in terms of levers we pull from a budgetary standpoint. Right now, the district has a $4.4 million surplus. So we're not at a point where if this levy fails in November, teachers need to be cut immediately. They're also subject to a collective bargaining agreement, which needs to be honored and respected. And as I understand it, that contract's up for negotiation. There's a lot of room to collaborate with the teachers union and the staff to figure out ways to make strides with the budget without necessarily losing people in the process.
Well, I think the last thing that we would want to do would say, number one, our educators are expendable. They're not expendable. They teach our students, and they're extremely invaluable. And I think that would be the most important thing we could do would be hire right when it comes to superintendent. I'm not certain that any of us sitting on a board are the right ones to walk through the school and say, yes, you, no, yes, you. That is what you hire and pay a superintendent for, who knows what to do. It would then be our responsibility to say yes or no. I would hope that would be a last resort. I would hope that we don't go into the state's receivership and do that. That will not make anyone happy. We were knocking on that door a number of years ago, and that would be the worst that could happen. So we either pass a levy soon, or that's going to happen. And so, again, for that reason, that's why I would be for the levy.
All right, next question. Sherry Catry, we're going to open up with you. If elected to the school board, would you say that you would behave in a professional, respectful manner in the midst of disagreements?
Yes. I mean, I've been on the school board. We've had disagreements. I've given my opinion. Other people have given their opinion. Never had an issue. What I do want to add, I've never had to witness it, but if I ever witnessed something that got unprofessional, I would address it. I would not sit by and allow it to occur.
To simply answer the question, I'd just say yes. It comes down to respect and working together, so.
Yes, I think that you need to lead by example and be respectful, show your children how you want them to behave.
And Stacy? Hartley?
Yes.
Dr. LaFay?
Whether in a work environment, on a board, or online, I always choose to be respectful.
I think the answer to that's yes. I think disagreement among the board doesn't need to be a bad thing or a negative thing. I think it can produce some of the best ideas and solutions. So yes, I mean, right away, if somebody disagrees with me, I think we start asking questions of each other, share our facts, and figure out whether it's a misunderstanding or a need to compromise that gets us, as long as everybody's compass is pointed in the direction of doing what's right for our kids and our community, I think we'll always end up in the right place.
Pastor Adams?
It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. What do we do when that happens? It will happen. And what the most important thing is for us to act like professionals with respect, the same way we would treat every single student. We need to treat each other with respect and understand that that will happen, and we need to do our best to try to collaborate and work together and sometimes negotiate.
And Brian?
My answer is yes as well. You know, having played football all the way through the collegiate level and owning a business currently, you know, I can tell you that you're not always going to get along with people. I think it's actually healthy to have disagreement, but it's about how you handle yourself and having differing views in the room. Some of us up here have had disagreements already. Here we are, and, you know, depending on who gets elected, we're going to work together and we're going to get things done. So, long answer for a short yes.
Very good, thank you. And folks, these folks are in tight quarters. There's 8 people sharing 2 microphones. So if they can get along doing that here, whoever gets elected. So let's give these folks a round of applause just for being nice and respectful of each other and the time. So thank you very much for doing that. But we're not done. So, here we go. Critical race theory. I knew it would come back up. Here we go. So let's go with Kimberly King. I will read directly to you, and then we'll move on with the group this way. And the other thing is, it's really hard to make sure everybody gets their spot. I was supposed to be working with a grid up here. That went out back with the Huron Township trustees. So, but it is, we're just trying to make sure everybody has a fair shot at these questions. So here we go. Kimberly King. What specific concepts of critical race theory do you object to, if any?
I don't know that I'm aware of all of the specific concepts of critical race theory, but as a broad overview, I guess, of my thoughts on it, I know there's been a lot of talk that it might not be in our school right now, but it's coming. So I don't know what it's coming means. So I need to do more research on that myself if you want my honest opinion. I do think that we should, again, trust the people that we have hired into their positions. We have a curriculum director for that, and I would trust that she would evaluate the things. And there's also state standards that we have to follow. So if it comes down to it, we would have to follow what the state standards are and figure out how to implement that.
Well, this has been a hot button topic, as and, you know, anybody who turns on the news can see that. I feel like I don't think inflammatory content should be in the school system. I think that the children should be taught to be individuals and respect each other. I do think, you know, it does start at when, you know, for the parents to kind of police if they see something that they don't like or a content they don't agree with, go to the teachers and then move up the chain, principal, superintendent, you know, the committee, in kind of, you know, from the school board for the curriculum and kind of bring it up that way. But it, you know, it's important for people to be okay with the curriculum that's in the school, and it's important that the parents kind of, you know, take some ownership too in the kids' education and kind of keep an eye on things. And if there's something in the curriculum that they don't agree with, to bring it to the attention of the teachers.
Let's send it over to Stacy Hartley. And we'll go that away.
So I think the question was very specific to what specifically in CRT do we object to? Yes, that was the question, I believe. I think that was the question.
You read the question again. What specific concepts of critical race theory do you object to, if any?
Do you object to? Well, so the Ohio Attorney General just issued a ruling on September 14th where he was asked by the State Board of Education to weigh in on an anti-racism resolution that they had passed in 2020. He made statements about it and was really asked, is this constitutional or not? And his overall view of it was, and I agree with this, because he's the Attorney General and he kind of knows the law and stuff. But his overall was anything that would be implemented in that, if it is discriminatory, if it is an act of discrimination against students, it's wrong. It is not lawful. So certainly any part of any of that that would be discriminating against students, I would object to.
I object to the concept behind it. It promotes that one child is an oppressor and another is oppressed. It's like if you run a business, I run a business, and if I had a black person and a white person walk in, if I choose to serve the black person first, I'm just hurrying to get them out of the store. If I choose to serve the white person first, I'm racist because I'm treating the black person second. I don't like promoting that type of concept with our children. We have concepts in place in our schools to promote kindness and unity and anti-bullying and character development, and there's nothing wrong with those programs as they stand.
The issue of CRT, kind of to answer the question first, is to understand what people mean by CRT. And Stacey referenced the very Republican Attorney General that we have here in Ohio. He acknowledged that CRT, he won't even acknowledge that in his opinion because it means different things to different people. I've heard some people talk about it, and as I understand it as someone who went to law school, as this kind of advanced theory of examining laws and societal frameworks for impact on race. I've heard other people talk about it in terms of, much like Beth is saying, like a racist kind of framework for making one group of kids feel bad about how they were born versus another. Do I support that or object to that? Absolutely. From everything I've been able to research, there's no evidence that it's in Huron schools or that anything discriminatory is happening in Huron schools or intends to happen. And I think thank you.
I'm certainly not an expert on CRT. I try, like others, to read both sides. One of the concepts that troubles me is the two words, equity versus equality. Equity sounds like a really good word. Equality is we're all treated the same. Equity says it's not fair for you to be ahead, so you need to give up something so we can be on an equal or equity level. And that concept I disagree with, so I think it's not a good concept at all.
Yeah, so my stance with CRT. So the problem with this is it's an overarching idea that systemically there's racism in everything in our society, right? So as Beth had mentioned, there's this idea that you make one choice, you're racist, you make another choice, you're racist because. You know, my opinion is that students in American schools should be taught to appreciate the good things about our country, but also acknowledge that some very bad mistakes have happened. In doing so, that does not mean that we need to have a Marxist idea of slapping labels on kids to say, hey, 5-year-old kindergartner, you're an oppressor and you are oppressed just because of the color of your skin. If we're going to talk about Title IX discrimination, this is a form of discrimination. There is proof that it is in Ohio. There's actually 4 equity videos up on the Ohio Board of Education site right now for local schools that show that this is being done, and they're shown as doing it. So it's here.
Okay. What do I object to? Well, CRT is as Stacey said, it's an advanced theory that is taught in law school. When I speak to different people, everybody has a different take on what it is. What I will tell you, I do not believe it has a place in our public schools. Anything that is, first of all, our children, they're not even really ready to even evaluate such theories. And I don't think that we start pushing social issues within our school buildings. I do want to say something about equity versus equality. I'm not sure what CRT says, but I can tell you as a teacher, equity versus equality means I give to the child who has the disadvantage the tools and resources.
Thank you, Sherry. Okay, this is a direct question to Ryan Hathaway. Ryan? I think it is publicly known that you were at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th protesting the outcome of the election. Now running for public office, will you honor the results of this election?
That's an interesting question. I don't know how someone has an idea of why I was at the Capitol on January 6th, but yes, I was. I went there with a group of people, observed what went on, came home. As far as school board goes, I don't know how I'd even fight the results of the election, but yes, I will.
And Stacy Henners, you have a direct question here. During the past levy, you were a vocal opponent of it. If the new treasurer recommends a levy, will you take their professional opinion and advice on and campaign against it? Let me read that again. During the past levy, you were a vocal opponent of it. If the new treasurer recommends a levy, will you take their professional advice or campaign against it?
Well, I think it's going to depend on what they recommend and the ability to support it with facts. I mean, I see the levy, and I said this back in May, and I'll say it again, it's for the kids, but it affects everybody in the community. I have neighbors that are 85 and disabled. I have neighbors that are single mothers trying to make ends meet, and my vote commits all of them to having to pay more, and I owe it to all of them to make sure that it's the right ask at the right time for them. So if I feel that it is, I'll absolutely support it. We absolutely will need a levy at some point. If I feel that it's not, then I'll respectfully not support it.
And a question for the moderator. Is that a Michigan tie that you're wearing? Wait a minute. How did that get in there? It just happened to be clean and ready to go, so no school affiliation based on the outfit. So let's talk about pay to participate. Pay to participate has been actively activated by the board for athletics and academics. $125 for athletics, $50 for academics. All students should be allowed to participate to promote learning outside of the classroom. Would you be willing to revoke pay to participate? Let's do Andra. How about you first? And we'll go to Stacy then. Yeah, you may.
It's in play because we had to make the board made some decisions because of the levy not passing. I think that there are a lot of people out there that support the kids, and even boosters and other organizations that would give scholarship to help them, play. I hope that no child, even with the pay to play, has to be turned away because of that. Going forward, that's one of the things that, I support the upcoming levy because I think, I'd like to see that go away. I do see the need after meeting with the treasurer and sitting through, going through the 5-year forecast, like Beth had said. I feel like now I can kind of get behind the levy more than I did in the past levy because I didn't quite understand, where the money was needed.
Stacey Hartley?
So I think the question was just, would I support revoking it? Yes.
I also would support revoking pay to play.
Stacey Henners?
Yeah, same here. Number one, I don't think implementing it this year was necessary. It doesn't solve a $2.1 million upcoming deficit 4 years from now. It felt punitive, and I think a lot of parents now feel like if they're paying that fee, they've essentially paid what they would pay for the levy and are more inclined to not vote for it. So I also think it's short-sighted towards the goal.
I don't like pay to play. I don't think anybody does. I would hope that the numbers themselves would bear that out, that it was absolutely necessary. If it was absolutely necessary, I guess I would say, yes, we need to do that unemotionally. But I would hope that that would not have to happen, and if it was even, maybe we don't have to do it, I'd say, well, then let's not do that and give the kids a benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, short answer, yes, I would vote to revoke it. You know, again, growing up playing football, I can tell you I would not have been able to play if this had occurred where I grew up. But as John had just mentioned, you know, again, if it comes down to leaving the lights on, obviously we got to make a decision. I don't think that was the case with this. You know, I think this and busing, it was more intended to make us feel a little hurt and realize that the situation is serious. So if we can find better solutions to get this financial situation fixed, then, you know, I think that's, sports are a big reason that kids stay here. So we need to make sure that we're not causing irreparable damage by, you know, taking sports away or keeping this pay to play.
I definitely would vote to revoke it. When that decision was made, had I been on the board, I would have been outnumbered, but I wouldn't have voted to put that into play. I don't think it saved a significant amount of money. And just as the state labels us as a wealthy district and think that we can come up with money, I think that's what we assumed with their families, that we would charge them $125 for an activity, that they have it. And as Ryan said, there's kids out there who don't.
I would say yes, that I would revoke it. I know that athletics and arts and the theater and lots of other things that the kids do after school is what drives them to come to school and to do well during the day. So I think taking that away from them or forcing their parents to have to pay for that or choose whether they have the money to pay for it, I don't really think that it helped our kids at all by making that decision.
Okay. Next question for the group. For candidates who do not support universal masking, what is your justification for supporting policies that may exclude vulnerable children from school? I'll read that again. For candidates who do not support universal masking, what is your justification for supporting policies that may exclude vulnerable children from school? Pastor Adams, I'm going to throw that your way. Do we have, first of all, do we have any candidates that do not support universal masking? Okay, so let's, Pastor Adams, we'll let you take it, and we'll keep the mic on that end of the...
Okay. I guess I'm a little confused on the question as far as, are we saying that what do we do to the kids who don't mask? You give me...
And then you can determine based on that.
Thanks, Mac. Okay, it's still kind of rough in my mind, supporting policies that may exclude vulnerable children from school. I'm going to go back to my first thing on the vaccine. Because I really think, again, that unless we are facing a very extremely serious health emergency, not that the emergency we're facing now is not serious, but unless it's something that's dire, I would default right back again to the parents and their health professionals. I think that face-to-face interaction with our children and with teachers is extremely, extremely important. And unless it was absolutely 100% necessary, I would not be for that.
I think the vulnerable children part triggers the Americans with Disabilities Act or the IDEA, which is the educational component that allows kids to have access to schools if they have disabilities. It really is a case-by-case analysis. So I think you can say, do I think a mask should be on at all times in all situations? No, right? People can make their own choices. If there's a specific situation where a child with a disability is unable to come to school because of a vulnerability, then I think that, and I think it's required that the school consider that, and much like the IDEA requires for all other types of disabilities, figure out the right plan that would allow them to have equal access to the school. So case-by-case basis, but absolutely that should be factored in.
Thank you. Obviously, we should never leave a child behind. However, masking every child in the room on behalf of one is not a solution. There are multiple studies out now that masking children has caused severe problems with their health, both from a mental standpoint and physical. That's really becoming common knowledge, though it's not commonly talked about in the media. And there are virtual options. I'm sure that we could get creative if a child needed to have access to the classroom. If an individual child is that immune compromised that being in a room of masked or unmasked people would be threatening to them, then they probably are not well enough to come to school regardless.
Anyone else like to respond to that? Sherry Catry and Ryan?
Okay, so I didn't raise my hand when I said that I was against mandating masks. I just want to make it clear that I'm not saying that the possibility could not arise. I don't think that it's something that needs to be addressed immediately, but I don't want to say never, because you don't know what is going to happen in the future.
So my stance on this echoes my stance on the vaccinations. I 100% believe that that's a parent's choice whether or not their child should have to wear a mask. I'm 100% for parents who want their kid to wear a mask. I'm against universal masking. And as Stacy and Beth both said, you know, at the same time, we need to make sure that no child is left in a vulnerable situation or is not given access to what they lawfully should have access to.
All right, next question. We are down to our last couple questions here, so we're going to talk a little bit about social media. So, everybody, who has a social media presence right now online? Okay, so this will be directed to those with social media campaigns. Will you be willing to quiet your online presence to better reflect the school district? Will you be willing to quiet your online presence to better reflect the school district? Dr. LaFay, you are reaching for the mic, so go right ahead. You may go ahead.
I was actually reaching for it to hand it to Stacy because I would call my online presence marginal at best.
Stacy, go right ahead.
I'm not clear if this is like as a board member, do you think? We don't know.
I think it's when you get on the board will you continue to maintain an online presence.
Yeah, so, well, sure, why not? But I think it shifts because if you're speaking about the school and school business, you are now a public official affiliated with that school. And there's the board, the code of ethics for board members that is, you know, you have the discussion in the boardroom during a board meeting where you talk about ideas and the issues, and then once there's a vote, it's decided, and you move on. So certainly I think maybe some communication with folks if there are questions about things. But I think it's still important to be able to communicate, and let's have lots of channels of communication. But I think it's important to be mindful of the role of a public official in that capacity.
Stacy Inners?
Yeah, to piggyback on that, I think to say to better reflect here in schools, I think we're looking to restore public trust, increase transparency, and I think eventually then that and hiring the right people and making good, sound decisions will better reflect on here in schools. But I don't think it's our job to tell a different story than actually is happening. And I think that's part of the transparency and trust issue that's happening right now is a lack of kind of just honest feedback between public officials and the community. I mean, Stacey's right to the extent that when you're sitting in that board, there are rules and some limitations, but there's also a lot of light that you can shine on what's happening explaining things that happen through social media. Does not reach the entire community. I talked to Ms. Burke today. She had no idea from Facebook that things were happening, but it reaches a lot of people in this community.
I would say that just because someone may miscommunicate is not a reason to stop communication. I'm a communicator, and I believe that if anything, what our board needs to do going forward is not just communicate, it's over-communicate. Over-communicate proper things, over-communicate encouraging things, over-communicate things that uplift our community and are not against it. So I think those things are important, and I think that is absolutely what a board member needs to do. If they do not do that, then they're probably not going to have their board seat very long, and so be it.
So part of me thinks that this question was maybe geared towards some healthy campaign competition that's been going on. But I agree with what everyone has said thus far, that I think that all of us who are on the board need to continue social media presence, because that's how we're going to get to a point where we're instilling trust in the community. People feel like we are an open book, and hopefully we can, keep that going.
I can honestly say that while I sat on the board for 4 years, I never once spoke negative against the district on social media. The only type of information I ever shared were the positives, district information, trying to get it out there to the community. So, yeah, I'm not going to speak against the school district if I'm elected. I also never spoke about local government. I'm not always happy with what city council decides, but if I'm elected to be on the board, I am mindful of what my responsibility is, and I would be advocating for our students and our families as a board member and not as a community member.
Kimberly, you want to take that on, or you're good for the next question? Okay, she's good. Okay, here we go. So, Kimberly, we'll send this your way then. As a board member, what are the ways you would work to ensure the district focuses on the social and emotional well-being of our students and teachers?
I would say that we have a pretty good foundation for that already, so if there's ways that we can build that up a little bit more, then I would be all for that. I think they do a great job, at least at the 2 elementary schools that my kids attend, about being kind and respectful. I imagine that transitions through junior high and high school as well, so I guess I would say yes.
Okay, Andra?
Well, I think it's important that we're seeking a new superintendent, so somebody who's open, to. The board does more of the policy and making, and they're the chief advisors of the superintendent, and he or she kind of take care of the day-to-day things. But if there was a problem, I think it could come up to the board, and certainly we should be supportive to all the students.
Would you read the question again?
Yes, let's see here. Critical race, no. If elected, let's see. Which one was that? That was, let me move on. I got a bunch here.
Yes, the social
here we go.
one.
As a board member, what are the ways you would work to ensure the district focuses on the social and emotional well-being of our students and teachers?
Okay. So I think it's important that the programs that we have already in place to work with the kids, to teach them the skills that they need, I think those are all positives. As a teacher myself, I know that as educators, we need to have additional training because the needs of our kids are changing all the time, and the world that they live in is not the same world I was teaching in 10 years ago. It's constantly changing. And as a board member, I would advocate that some of these professional development days be focused on specific areas of concerns that our children are facing.
Yeah, I think this is an important part of what our school district needs to do. You know, again, this goes back to the kids, and every single one of these kids deserves to be treated with respect. They need to have the support they need. If that's individual training based on specific kids in a class, whether that be a teacher taking that on their own or whether it's school funded, I would say that I think this falls back to communication and transparency when it comes to the parents' sake, as I feel like the parents should have a say or at least know what is being taught in schools. And that includes certain specific trainings.
Social and emotional, I think, is a very difficult thing for a school system to do. The reason being is homes are different, and there are students that come who are more socially advanced than others just because of their environment. I think it's a very difficult thing to do. That doesn't mean we don't do anything about it, but there are some things that schools cannot do that most things should be done at home. That doesn't mean we bail out on them. I think we try our best, but there are some things the school cannot do that parents need to do.
Since I only get a minute, I want to focus in on the teacher piece of that. I had a chance a few weeks ago to sit down with a number of folks and just hear what was important to them. And one of them was a teacher, not in this district, but they reside here. And it was really eye-opening to think about. We focused a lot as parents on how the last couple years have affected our students, but to hear how it's affected our teachers. And day to day, this is a high school teacher teaching English, so a lot of feelings involved in the work product and communication that they're having. And the toll it takes both in them being there to support the students, but the board being there as an employer to support the teachers. So with an HR background, I mean, that's a huge piece of it. Our teachers can't teach if they're not taking care of themselves, and the board's not supporting them with whether it's services and support to make sure that they're well-rounded and not drained from, especially after the last few years.
I think one of the easiest things we can do for our community is to keep our schools open and keep our kids going to school. I think anyone who taught in the schools or had children last year is feeling the impact this year of their social and emotional well-being, and just how the depth and breadth of that is coming to light with the number of suicides, increased anxiety. I can't even tell you the number of anxious children I have seen in the ER and in my practice. It is incredibly sad. So anything we can do toward normalcy and community and keeping these kids together would be a huge step in this direction.
I think I'll be even more specific to the same issue that everyone's talking about. It's nice to talk in the abstract, but we need to quantify it. So my mind goes to, there are some really wonderful institutes nationwide that have some really great survey tools that can be done not just for students, but with the families as well as with teachers. We need to hear from them. What is the climate? What's going on with them? What are their concerns? What are their needs? From younger children learning to what we call emotionally regulate, right? So like, how do you handle frustration? How do you handle when something doesn't go your way? These sometimes become the outbursts when they're in kindergarten. And if there isn't the structure in place in helping to teach the tools and model the tools in the classroom, these are going to be perpetual problems. Kids can't learn when they do that, and the teachers can't teach. So, but I would go back to the students, the families, and the teachers to see what the needs were and how we best deal with that.
Thank you, Stacy. Okay, well, we have closed the floor now for additional questions, and we have one question that we're going to wrap up with. We have a second question here that asks about the 3 priorities of each candidate. We're going to incorporate that into their closing remarks, so we're going to call that as part of the closing. This is with regard to the actual levy and the budget. So here we go. The math doesn't add up. The levy generates $2.1 million, but the cuts are less than 5 to 10% of the $2.1 million. Something's not right here. So who's our math star up here? Do we have one? Anybody really good at math that wants to take a crack at that one? Do the numbers add up? Stacy Hartley, I'm going to send it your way because you are our last speaker. So you're in just a bad spot down there. So do the cuts add up to what's being generated by the levy?
Well, I'm not sure which cuts we're talking about. If we're talking about the only 2 cuts that were made for this academic year, no. And I think the other candidates have pointed that out, that those were nominal cuts, and they did feel a little bit punitive. The 2.1 million, remember, this is using the 5-year forecast. This is looking long term. We are in deficit spending, but we still have our cash reserves. This is not to say we want to run it down to 0 in the cash reserves, but we still have some time, and we need to figure out how do we maximize our revenue, how do we make sure that we have minimized the expenses we have so we can reduce that deficit as we work towards restoring trust, as we work towards new leadership, and then we work towards what's the right ask and get that levy passed.
Dr. LaFay?
So the cuts proposed will never make up the deficit. That's why I think we're asking for a levy. So this question is a little bit confusing to me. But it is our due diligence to go through the budget and take a look at things. And, there's been talk of closing this building, et cetera. There are things that we can do. Taking a look at those things with the treasurer currently, we still need a levy, and we have time, but we don't have really much time. It's kind of like if you know that you lost your job, do you keep paying for the cable bill? No, you're probably going to cut the cable bill. So we have to start looking at where we can trim things, and I wish we had time to build up more trust and do budget cuts and have more time to pass the levy, but it's more pressing than that.
I think what doesn't add up about the cuts that were made this year is the direct impact on the students. So cutting busing, which saved, let's say, I think the number was $50,000, but also left something like 25 or 30 kids scrambling to find a ride to school. So like table stakes is we need to get them to school in order to educate them. That felt like the wrong cut for the impact that it had on families, and then it wasn't solving any of the budgetary crisis. So I think that's what feels like it doesn't add up. Yeah, new money is needed, but we need to be precise about what we're asking, particularly of our poor and senior citizens. And I go back to the 5.6 feels imprecise, and it feels like it's too much to ask right now.
Well, one of the first things I did when I decided to run for school board is I spent a couple hours with Randy Droyer, and I know his reputation. I know he's never been found for recovery or for anything that he's improperly done. I asked him to help me understand what was going on. I'm not sure that those numbers were meant to solve a serious problem. I think they were maybe to stick a finger in the dike a little bit and maybe stop a little bit, but I'm not sure that that was the purpose of that. I trust what Randy Droyer says, and I trust looking at the numbers that I saw and he put together that we are almost in dire needs, and if we wait until we have those needs, it's going to be too late because the money doesn't come in right away. And that's one of the things, there's a delay before the money comes in.
So I agree, this 10% cut, I think it was meant as a, hey guys, we're serious about this, something needs to be done. I do think that we need to focus our efforts on, like Stacy again said, trying to really thin out what we're asking for here and figuring out, what the right number is. The fact that we are operating off of cash reserves should be an uncomfortable feeling, but it's a feeling that, hey, we have some time to get this done. We have a lot of changes coming up, superintendent, treasurer, and we're going to be doing all of these things together. I will say, I saw a kid carrying her tuba in front of Cornell's the other day, and I can only assume she was walking to school, and I'm thinking to myself, it's not even winter yet. what are some of these kids going to do? And that really put things into perspective for me. So, yeah.
As far as the numbers not adding up, I think those cuts are just a temporary fix, because I don't think there's anybody up here who questions that we need to have a levy. We just question if this is the right time to ask for this amount of money. And then the cuts, I agree, they did not cut a significant amount in the budget, so I don't know that it's fixing anything. As Ryan said, it got people's attention. It gets your attention when your kid doesn't have a ride to school. It gets your attention when you have to pay for pay to play. And I think it's really was just to tell the parents, we need you to vote.
Can you just repeat the question again so that I can
let's see, I think the card is right down there.
recollect what I'm answering? Okay, so yes, I don't think the math necessarily added up, but I don't know if it was meant to add up by cutting that, okay, we cut this and now we need this levy so that we don't have to cut that anymore. I think we need the levy money regardless, whether it's this year or next year. I don't know that cutting the things that they cut minimally was going to fix the problem, is my answer.
I think everybody up here had some great points. I think we haven't had new money in a while, and if the levy does not pass this time, we certainly will have to take a look at what we can cut that, is not effective, that's least effective to the kids. But it is going to be a negative cash balance by 2025 if we don't do something. So even making those cuts, we still have to have a levy of some sort, I would think, to keep in the green and not having the state take over, which is certainly something we don't want.
Okay, that concludes our round of questions. We will now go into closing remarks. So each candidate will have 1 minute for closing remarks. So Andra Kurtz, you have the mic there in front of you. We will start with you and then work down to Stacy Hartley at the end. So Andra, take it away.
Thank you to the Chamber, the library. Thank you, Mac, for having us tonight and letting us kind of get together and tell you all of our opinions and how we feel. I think I'm up here with a great group of people. I think a lot of good things are going to come in the future for Huron schools. We have a lot of people interested in the school system who are here, who want to do what's best for the kids, and I think we're going to see some good things in the future.
I just want to thank everyone for taking your time to come out and listen to us tonight. Hopefully we answered your questions and gave our viewpoints for how we would deal with certain situations. If you have questions of any of us, I would ask you to just continue to ask us. We have a while until this election is actually going to take place, so just keep asking your good questions so that we can best answer them for you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for their time this evening. If I have the honor of being elected to serve as one of your school board members, I just want to assure you that I will not lose sight of what our main priority is. Our main priorities are our students. And I will be transparent. I will expect you to hold me accountable. And I will hold accountable those when needed.
I'll keep it short and sweet. Appreciate all you guys hanging in there. I know it's 9 o'clock, so appreciate all of the good questions. I think no matter what direction you decide to go, we have some good candidates up here. There's a lot of invested people, and I'm excited for where we go from here. I will say, if anybody has questions for me in particular, I'm a coffee guy. I like to sit down and talk rather than social media if I have the opportunity. So feel free to ask, and I'll share a little more information.
I've been a substitute teacher, and the only reason I ever did that wasn't to make extra money. It was because I thought maybe if I go into school and be a substitute teacher, I can be a positive influence on some students. I did that. I tried my best, and there were some students that definitely was able to make a positive influence on. That's exactly what I want to try to do if you are gracious enough to elect me to the school board. I'm not going to be perfect. We can't change communication overnight, but it would be an extreme desire for me to try to help the communication from the board to the community. That's not an easy fix, but that's something that I believe in enough that I would put forth a lot of energy to do that.
So Huron's always been my home. It's where I grew up. It's where I was educated. It's where I brought my family back to. It's where my kids will be educated. So I'm invested. I'm hoping for the opportunity to serve because I feel like I have a skill set to help us solve some of the challenges that we have. The biggest being restoring trust that these schools, which belong to this community, they don't belong to any one group of people. They don't belong to the board. They belong to the community. That they feel like they understand what's happening. They may not always agree with what's happening, but at least they understand it, and they trust that it's compliant, and they trust that it's in the best interest of our kids. So I appreciate everybody being here and engaging tonight and learning more about each one of us. And thank you to the 7 of you for putting yourselves out there and your families front and center. Our kids are worth it.
I'm guessing none of you care what I have to say right now because you're tired and hungry. Thank you for coming. I feel so privileged to live in Huron. I have so much respect for our community, and I would do a lot to build it up. The schools are the backbone of our community, and they are so important. Thank you.
Ditto, make it short. I have such a passion for learning. I have such a passion for education and public education. I am excited to think about the opportunity to serve this community in this way and to learn even more about our district and the board operations. We will put our kids first, and we will look for new leadership who is a wonderful mesh for this community and who will lead us to great things.
And if I could have just a minute for my closing remarks. We want to thank all of our candidates for their participation this evening and their willingness to run for these important offices. Best of luck to all of you. We also want to thank Amy Roldan and her team and the Huron Chamber of Commerce for making the event possible. We thank you, the audience, for coming and remind you to vote on Tuesday, November 2nd. Additionally, there will be candidates available afterward. Those that are not on curfew will be available out in the lobby, and there'll be some additional information out there about each candidate. So good night, everyone, and we'll see you November 2nd. Thank you.